Hello guys, and welcome to the stream this morning. I know we're a little later than we typically are, but we have a treat for you, and I think this is an important topic that we need to discuss. This is absolutely essential during this time. And so, for those who don't know, I'm Pastor Tanner, and I think this is something that has really just came up because of everything that's been going on in the George Floyd situation, everything that's been going on in certain parts of the country, right? And so I wanted to just jump out and talk about this topic. We actually had an interview with Vesenia Designs lined up for today anyway, and we started talking about it last minute and just felt like we needed to talk about this issue. And so that's part of why we started late. We were trying to get everything sorted out for this, and it's also part of why we're gathering together today. I'm really excited for this opportunity, and so I just wanted to give that intro to everybody. If you are watching in either my channel or Vesenia's channel, please go ahead and at Jesse Lee Thetford if you are interested in sending in a question. We want to be answering community questions as well. This isn't just some canned interview or anything like that. This is very much an open discussion, and we would love to hear your input as well. So Jesse, if you wouldn't mind in each chat, saying hi, then people can figure out your handle and go ahead and send us questions live throughout the show. So that's going to be the focus of today. And without further ado, I want to just go ahead and jump right into this and introduce Vesenia to you guys. So let's go ahead and get going. Hey Vesenia, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good. Thanks for being willing to do this, and thanks for being willing to do this completely last minute.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh man, so that's awesome. So again, we had an interview lined up already. We were going to talk about all sorts of, various issues, and we decided to just go ahead and no, this issue needed to be addressed. But before we do that, I would like to just have everybody an opportunity to get to know you a little bit. So,
Cool
would you
beans.
mind just introducing yourself to everybody?
Yep. I'm I'm vesenialindsey. You can call me Ves. I do stuff here on Twitch. you know, happy-go-lucky Christian.
No, that's awesome. And how did you end up on Twitch? It's kind of an interesting platform, right? I'm just curious how you ended up on here.
Okay, so it's crazy. I wasn't. What happened was I was trying to look for a graphic design job out here in Ohio. Could not find anything. And one day, my husband, he was like looking at my old art. He saw like comics and stuff that I was creating, and he was like, "Hey, Bess, you should do this because this looks really good." So, I end up making a comic series, as you can see.
Oh wow.
and what happened was he was like, "You should do YouTube to try to promote yourself and get yourself out there from like not just Ohio, just everywhere." So, started doing that, and then YouTube started blocking me because I guess they felt that they wanted to, and I needed another platform to stream at because I started liking streaming more than editing videos because it was depressing me. Like I couldn't be at a computer screen just talking to myself. It was horrible. And my friend Mask, she was like, "Hey Ves, try Twitch, come on here, let's see how that goes. You might like it more." And I fell in love with Twitch. It was like community based. I could raid, I could meet people. It was just like amazing and opened my eyes. And I was like, okay, I'm here on Twitch. Forget it.
Oh, that's so awesome. I've noticed a similar thing. I think we've talked about this a little bit, but just the community on here is absolutely insane. You actually get actively involved with people's lives. It's really cool to me.
Yes, super. Like everybody is so welcoming and like always wanting to know what you're doing, who are you, where you from. It's just like really amazing. And even like people from different countries. Hey, hi from Argentina, hi from Greek, and it's just it's a really good platform.
Yeah, I agree. And our other interview was going to have a lot of discussion on this topic. I'm sure we can talk about it more in the future, but
Yeah.
yeah, I found the same thing. I love Twitch as a platform, and I know it's a little smaller than a lot of the other ones, but I just think it's such a great platform for building communities. It's awesome at that.
Yeah. It's really good.
Okay. Yeah. The other question I want to ask you, what kind of content do you do? You talked a little bit about, you're starting your comic series and all that type of stuff, but
hmm
just talk about like what a typical stream schedule looks like for you and the type of content that you're typically focusing on.
So my stream schedule is like Monday through Fridays. We start at 12 and we end whenever we feel like it. So it's like, I'll be here uh, just drawing because I do a lot of drawing. I do a lot of comics and, comics or like emotes. I beautify people's Twitch channels, if that's what it's called. I do their panels, banners, overlays, the works, anything art, anything art wise, I do, and it goes with the flow. Like if we're having a great discussion and I'm like paused a little bit, I'll go a little bit longer. If we are just having a good time, I go a little bit longer. Even if because on Thursdays I try to give myself a break and play video games. So we do that. We play Fortnite. We play Happy Lucky Tail. Right? Was that Lucky Super Lucky Tail? um, the just games in general, just to like take a breather from art. And then I do sub requests. So like we make a wallpaper and I just start adding people to it, and it turns into like a nice big drawing for the community. So it's just me drawing.
Hey, that's awesome. And I mean, again, if you look at Twitch as a platform, right? Like, what is everyone doing? It's just so and so playing video games. It's just so and so just chatting. Just so and so hanging out, right? So it's very similar in that regard. You just kind of come on here and do your thing,
Right. That's just basically it.
Okay, cool. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for helping us get to know you. And let's jump right in. Let's jump right into our topic that we're talking about here today. Again, for those who are interested in both chats. Oh, hold on. I need to turn off my alerts. Professional streamer.
Nah.
So, again, in both chats, if you are interested in asking a question, we intend for this morning, for this afternoon, I guess, to be very focused on just an open discussion. So if you are interested at all in asking a question, please feel free to do so. Hit at Jessie Lee Thetford in the chat, either chat, she's monitoring both, and send your questions to her, and she's going to go ahead and send them to us. But we have a couple to get us started. I think this one is a great one to start with. Just, should Christians even be discussing this topic? This topic can be divisive. It's not focused on religion. Should Christians even be discussing this topic? What do you think?
I think we need to. Like, God created for everybody to be talking, and he put everybody on one earth. Think about it this way. He put everybody on one earth, right? And we Christian, and we supposed to look at everybody equally. We're supposed to be looking at everybody like one image, because that's what he did. He made all of us in his image. When you cut me, I'm red. You cut anybody darker than me, they're red. You cut you're red. So like, it's just, it needs to be something that needs to be talked about. It needs to be something that's like open in discussion, because the thing is, if we all divided, how are we supposed to come together and have church, right? Like, two or more gather, right? Like, God wants us to come together. He didn't say if two or more black people or two or more white people. He said, if two or more gather. So that's anybody, just coming together and talking and opening our eyes, opening our eyes and not seeing things from one perspective, because God is all perspectives,
Yeah, I think that's super insightful, because just like you said, we are all created in the image of God, right? That is something that God has done. That's how God has designed us. That's how God has made us. And yet, like you said, oftentimes we segregate and act like we're all different, that we're all unique in that sense. Right. Now here's something else you just made me think of, though. We all do have different backgrounds and different perspectives, right? We come at things a little bit differently. Would you expand on that a little bit and maybe describe what you think we bring to the table in terms of our differences, even though, yes, we are all made in the image of God?
Yeah, the thing about like Christianity and different cultures is that we all have different perspectives on how we follow God in our faith, right? So like with the black community, because I'm part of the black community, I go to a black church. It's, spirituals, hymns, we dive deep into God, because that's all we could focus on. He's the only person that can get us out of this oppression. He's the only person that can get us out of, anything that goes on with us, and then hopefully if we die in the process, we know where we're going. So that's like how we think of it. And then, I've been to a white church. I had a had a white boyfriend, so been there, and they're more loving and let's come together, let's pray for one another, and so I feel like all those different like spectrums and all those different ways of them thinking or what we think will bring things and blossom out to beautiful things, maybe more than where we can be at now. Like now we just it feels like a train that's doing the same thing, going to the same stops. But if we come together, I feel like we can derail from that and go even farther. Have the train go up the hill once. Like something.
Yeah, yeah. No, I got you. I think that's really, really cool. Do you think those differences in perspective that each of those churches bring, do you think that we can learn from each other? Even like, let's just go to style. You were talking about different types of music, where certain churches seem to be more focused on, practical loving and maybe prayer, different things like that. Do you think those differences are things we can learn from one another? Or do you think, because I think some people might think that there are deficiencies in other churches if they're not doing things the way they're doing it. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I go to this church, this is what I typically see as Christian, but when I go to this other church, they're not being very Christian. What do you think about those two ideas?
And I think that those things need to be they need to be broken. Like, I think that's where the whole plague of religion comes from. Because, like, I don't see me believing in God or me being a Christian as a religion. Like, I chose to follow and have faith because I wanted change in my life. I could tell you, no lie, I was going to go downhill at age 11. You know what I'm saying? I was living in a situation where my mom was abusing me. I couldn't take it no more. And it was just like, it was like a life or death type of situation. And it took me and my grandmother and my little sister innocently going to a church. And we didn't even know it was a Christian church. Because mind you, my grandmother, she grew up as a Catholic. She was going to be a nun, actually. So went to a church because they were giving out cupcakes. And I got saved that moment because I knew what I was thinking was wrong. My perspective on life was wrong. And it matured me because I was like, there has to be something better. There has to be something better. There has to be something else different. And I think that's where both churches come into play. Because, stereotypically people say, like, white people have a spoon in their mouth, but then black people are oppressed. Okay, so like, we oppress, this is how we view God, and this is the reason why we view God. If we give them we give them the knowledge of why, I'm pretty sure they will see God in a different light. So it's not, they will have a different perspective. And let's say if they are going through oppression themselves, like, their family, like divorce, or their family's falling apart or anything of that nature, we can show them how to not mend their hearts, but show them how God mended us and be a testimony to them,
Yeah, no, I really like that. And a phrase came into my mind while you're talking about that. It reminds me of Christianity in the trenches, if you will. Like, when I read the Gospels, Jesus is in the highways and byways, right? Like, he's not just, hanging out in the awesome, building and it's got all the stained glass. No, he is down in the trenches. And the story you just described to me, that background, that seems to me to be Christianity in the trenches. I like to see that. And I don't know. I feel like the church in many ways has gotten away from that, right? That, we just kind of segregate to ourselves and just hole up in our own little building where we're comfortable. And I kind of wonder if we need to be out and about a little bit more like Jesus was.
Yeah, that's the whole concept of evangelizing. And my husband talks about this all the time, how Christians don't know how to evangelize no more. It's all about us and only us. And the thing about it is, if we want to bring more people to God, we're not showing what God really is. We showing our selfish desires. That's what we doing. So my whole thing about it is, what are we doing wrong? And it's not God doing anything wrong, it's us doing it wrong. You know what I'm saying? Because if we're supposed to be made into new creatures and we're supposed to be, you know, as, you know, humble and all this great stuff that God put in the book that he says that we are, why are we not showing it, right? So that's how I feel about that.
Hmm. No, I think that's good. Okay, we've got our first audience question come through. This is from Jess. She's kicking us off, right? And this you're gonna laugh on this one because this is the one of the ones we were just chatting about. The question is simple: should Christians be colorblind? Should Christians be colorblind? What do you think about that idea or that concept?
I don't believe in colorblind. I believe in I see you and I respect you. That's it. I see you. I see who you are. I see your nature, and I respect you, and I'll treat you the way that you're supposed to be treated. If I want to be treated like gold, I'm gonna treat you like gold. Just plain and simple. There's no such thing as colorblind. We see color. We see red. We see pink. We see blue. You know,
Yeah,
that's ignorance. I will say that's ignorance in a sense. I think it's
yeah.
more of I see you. That's all I have to. That's all you need. I see color. You know, but
And I love that you said it that way. I'm going to give a little bit of background. I was chatting to you about this before, but I personally have used that phrase before. I have told people that before and not intending anything wrong or anything like that, but I was saying, you know, my personal perspective is I'm colorblind. I don't see color. I just see you know, focus on the person, right? That was the idea, but I was convicted by that concept when I went to a conference and somebody was preaching on this topic, and this was years ago. This was long before this issue has reached its fever pitch that I think it has today. And they had pointed out that that colorblind issue is actually taking away from people. It's actually removing something from them. And
mm-hmm,
they kind of corrected my perspective. I don't know if you could resonate with this, but how I look at this now is it's not colorblind. Like you said, we I see the color, I see the differences, and I can appreciate and respect those differences, right?
right.
And almost see it as a good thing that God has given to us, the fact that we're different and we're unique, not trying to pretend and whitewash everyone like we're all the same, but instead saying, no, we are different, and let's celebrate the good aspects of our differences, and let's not, you know, emphasize, I guess, maybe some of the bad aspects of our differences, right? What do you think about those ideas?
I think that they're correct in the sense, like, you know, it's about, you know, God gave us eyes and colors for a reason. You know what I'm saying? He gave us different shades and different things to enjoy and to be in awe of his creation. So if we're not in awe of his creation, if we're not in awe of a black person, or we're not in awe of a brown person, or we're not in awe of a white person, we have a problem. Why? Because he created that. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
he put that in our eyes so that he could be like, look, this is what I created. How you feel about it? And if you could feel nothing but hate, then you hate him because he created everyone in his image, you know? So that means he has to be all types of shades, right? Like he can't just be one shade. He got to be
Yeah.
everything, you know? That I say God is not in one avenue, you know. He comes up when he like I think about it like when he went to see Mary about Jesus. He dressed himself as an angel. You know what I'm saying? And then
Right.
like when
Right.
he had messengers of all different shades show up to like apostles and stuff like that. So it's like it's not just one avenue. It's all types of avenues.
Yeah. You remind me of something. Maybe this is a rabbit trail, but what do you think about the idea that people end up painting Jesus in a way that matches their culture and society? You go into a white church, they got the big white Jesus, you know, picture on the wall. You go into a black church, you got the black Jesus. What do you think about that? With that tendency that we have to try and paint God, paint Jesus in a picture or image that is more familiar to us.
I think this is the reason why he didn't leave his body behind. Like he didn't leave his body
Oh,
behind because he didn't want this to happen. He didn't want people to separate due to the fact of the color of his skin. He was like, yo, I'm out of here. And that's why they only gave him a quick little description. They said, you know, he had wool like beard, His hair was a certain type of length, and he wore this. They never talked about what what his skin was, what his anything was. We would just know he was from Bethlehem, so he was Israel. And Israel comes in different shades, so you can't never say he's white. You can't say he's black, nothing. But I feel like that's why he didn't leave his body behind. Just plain and simple.
Yeah, I actually think that's pretty insightful. There's a tendency in medieval Christianity to try and collect fragments of Jesus' life and idolize them, treat them like special tokens or treasures. I think if you gathered up all of the scraps of the cross that are located around the world, you could build a building out of it, right?
Right.
And so I think we as human beings have that tendency to idolize those things. And so I think that's insightful that God was like, no, I'm not going to leave none of this behind.
Exactly. I'm not leaving that behind for y'all. Y'all crazy. Because he knew our intent. That's the thing. Like ever since Eve did what she did and Adam went along with it, we fell. And that's all we've been. We've been people of selfish desires. That's why the whole free will concept, this is why I say, I don't bash people for what they believe in and what they do, because God gave us free will for a reason. When he wants to come known to you, he's going to let you be, he's going to let you know that he got it. But other than that, he gave us free will, and the free will is so corrupt in its own way. It's just like,
Yeah.
what could you do?
I think it's one of the most important doctrines of Christianity is, I think, that concept of our inherent original sin, right?
Yep.
And like you said, we have the will. God doesn't force us to do anything, right? But because of our will and desires being corrupt by sin, we oftentimes end up going down all sorts of paths that if we were to step back and look at, we would be like, I didn't want that for myself. How did I end up here?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something that happens, I think, because of original sin. We have that sin nature, and I think if we look into ourselves and we're honest, we will recognize that that's one of the problems that we have. And God, fortunately, came through Jesus to help us to deal with our sin nature, right? That's part of why he sent him. So
right. Think about it this way. When it comes down to God having shown himself, you have to think about back in the time when Moses was bringing his people, freeing up his people, and as soon as he went to go get the tablets, what they were doing, worshiping a bull. So he says nobody's supposed to be idolized, right? So why would he want to leave an image behind that you have to idolize? You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
It's like a way of when it came down to walk by faith and not by sight. That's the reason why he didn't do what he did, like by leaving his body behind or giving a really good description on what God is, or having painters come up with these images. Because honestly speaking, I don't, anything that people's like, this looks like God, no. I'm not taking it. And the reason why I'm not taking it is because we don't know. This is just somebody's imagination, what they're coming up with. So if it's illustrative, fine, so be it. But other than that, it's not true. It's not true to him. It's not true to his word. And that's because he didn't want us to idolize the image of God. He wanted us to have that intimate relationship with him, with the free falling. Like if you guys ever did everybody has their hands out and you got to free fall and trust everybody. He wants us to do that to him. So I think that's where that comes into play.
Got you. No, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got another question from chat. Juju asks this: is racism talked about is a problem in white churches? Is it a problem in white churches? It's brought up in minority churches, but is this something that we see as an issue in white churches? What do you think?
I don't know. Honestly speaking, I don't know. And the reason why I don't know is I've been to maybe a handful of churches, but it's just another nature that we have of our own is we like to cover up what we don't want other people to see. So when you go to church, a lot of people don't know this, but church is supposed to be for the sick. And what I mean by for the sick, I mean for the lost, for the people who don't know about God. And instead of us coming to church and showing our true nature, what we do is we cover up that nature and try to be holier than thou. That's what we call it.
Yeah, yeah,
And we try to make it seem like we are above them because we don't sin. In all honesty, we are sinning in that mindset, like not knowing, because like
yeah.
we thinking, oh, we're holy because we believe in God and this is that. But honestly speaking, if you're thinking that way, you're sinning dumb hard. Like there's no what like
Yeah.
why is this even a thing? But they fail to realize that we're supposed to show our true nature and show how God is transforming us. That's why we have testimonies. Like testimonies is the way that we speak out to people who don't believe so that they can be able to understand our perspective, because hey,
Right.
we went through this, you know, and this is the story. This isn't that how God worked when he was like talking to his people. They were all in parables, like, yo,
Right.
do you know this person, and they were doing this, and he was like storytelling, and it was a
Yeah.
testimony, and it was bringing people towards him.
Yeah. You just sparked so many things in my mind. I might randomly talk in circles for a little bit,
No,
but
it's fine.
I think he did that because we as human beings, there's something about story, there's something about a narrative that grips our hearts and our minds and drives us, right? And Jesus speaks in parables and all of those things. It also makes me think about the current situation that we're talking about. There is a narrative out there right now. If you watch the news, if you're following in the media, if you're reading articles, there's a narrative about this racist America and all these things. And I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent, but look how powerful it is to capture people's hearts and minds, right? Jesus spoke using narrative, he spoke using story, and right now people are motivated and encouraged and focused on a topic partially because of this big narrative that is out there. Do you think, I don't know how to even put this, but do you think this idea of narrative, this idea of storyline, this idea that you're part of a kind of an epic, your life is part of an epic, do you think we're missing this in the church in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, especially visually. Like look at the George Floyd, the his story. He was recorded and you saw his life slowly draining from his body. So my whole thing about this whole situation, especially with the church and like having us with our testimonies and like bringing people towards God because of our testimonies, is like, why are we not showing the people the struggles we've been through and showing them our true face? Like every time I talk about why I believe in what I believe in and why I respect people as much as I do, I start off with telling them, look, I wasn't in a great home. Like at first I was with my grandmother, but even that was, it was too much for me because I saw her getting beat by my mother, and it was just like everything. And it's like, if you talk and you tell them your reasoning, it will like spark something in them. I was sitting across from a lady. She kept calling us the Tinsies because I don't know why. She kept calling me and Justin that. And she had cancer the whole time. And one day she just didn't show up at church. And I'm like, yo, why she didn't show up at church? We did not know this woman had cancer and she was dying little by little. Like,
Mm,
why we should, why do we not know this? Why are we not praying for her? Why are we not picking her up? Why are we not, why are we missing all this communication? You know?
yeah.
And it's like, we're like God fearing people and we're supposed to come together and we're supposed to be brethren, right? Brothers and sisters in Christ. Why are we not treating each other like brothers and sisters? Why are we not being open and honest? And why are we not doing those things? You know?
Yeah, I think that's good, and we have a tendency in the church to, just like you said, to kind of put on these masks, to try to act holier than thou art,
Yeah.
right? And to just almost put on a show for people when we show up on Sundays, rather than just being real with each other and honest. And that's something I talk about a lot because I think it's one of the major problems
Yeah.
in the church. I want to go back to Juju's question. I asked you, is racism a problem in white churches? And you said you really don't know. Give me a little bit of a background, because I'm going to be honest, I don't know. I've maybe once been in a minority church, maybe once, and it was a long, long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Is racism something that is often discussed in minority churches? Is it the topic of sermons? Is it something that people are constantly discussing in these churches?
Yeah, of course. Like we match the way that we was treated when we came on the ships over here from Africa to Moses and them. You know what I'm saying? Like the oppression that Moses and Abraham and all of them felt. We've been through that for generation after generation after generation, and then to this day, even with like this situation with George, it's like, you know, every single time you turn on the news, you see another person dying from the cops. So what does that say? You know, like it makes you think back in the times where Egypt's they had the president, which was, you know, King Tut and them, and then he had his little army, and that's what it feels like. It's like an army of people just doing whatever they feel like because they feel like they higher in power, and you're disgusting, you're in poverty, you're black, you're this, you're that, and that's what we do. Our pastors preach on our oppression and match it with what the the Bible says about other people, like Moses and them, you know, and being that it's so strong and we can relate because, you know, come on, man, like we can't be ignorant to the fact that, you know, America was there's blood everywhere. There's blood everywhere. They built this land on Africans, you know, Africans. They brought them from ships, brought them here, built, made them build, made them do everything for free, not for compensation or nothing, and whipping them and doing all this stuff. And then, like, even after that, you know, it was, you know, lynching and, you know, the works. And it's just like you could feel that, you know, you could feel that, and you resonated with it more, especially since it's in the book, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I just want to take a moment and speak to everybody in both chats. I believe firmly, and you can affirm this if this is the case for you, Vesenia, but I believe firmly that us having these discussions, relaying the different experiences we have, the different background we have, I believe this is so important for the church to do right now. Everything, I'm going to be honest, everything you just described is very foreign to me, right? And it makes sense that it would be foreign to me. I'm, you know, a white pastor in the middle of the mountains, right? Like you know what I mean? But that doesn't invalidate either your experience nor my experience. And something I want to just say to both chats right now, to everybody who's listening to this, is it is so invaluable, guys, to gather together and have a discussion where we're just, in a sense, learning about each other, learning about each other's background, history, you know, where we've come from, what we've been through, all of those things. There is so much value to gain from this, and that's something that I am desiring in this conversation. I want to acknowledge this can be an emotionally charged topic. This can be difficult. This can be something where, you know, we feel like honestly, down into the deepest part of who we are as people, often we can feel attacked or marginalized, right? And I want to grant that all of that is the case, but I think it's so important for us to gather together and mutually discuss these things and learn from each other's experience and from each other's background. So that's something I want to say. Did you want to say anything about that, Bess?
And no, that's just like 100% real. Like these type of topics do cause chaos. Like look at now, Minneapolis is going through a lot. Everything is getting burned, and everything is. I always read that riots are due to the people that are unheard or misheard or misunderstood, and I think that's what's going on. You know what I'm saying? The fact that we're not sitting down and having a actual discussion and finding out the root of the problem is the reason why we having this happen. On and on and on.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. Something that I think is contributing to this is this is an emotional issue. This is that our feelings are invested in this, and when people feel like they are not given an opportunity to voice their feelings, their emotions, their struggles, their angst about the situation, they lash out, right? You, you know, if you back somebody into a corner, right? They're liable to strike back, you know.
Right.
And so I think a lot of people feel that way emotionally about the situation, that they just feel backed into a corner emotionally, and it's like, you know what, and they're lashing out.
Right. Um, it's like it's just like a lot of things in general, and like even with, I don't know if you heard of the story of the guy who was in Central Park. He was a bird watcher. You know, he's just hanging out, and he sees this dog running by, and he didn't look at the lady's skin. He just asked her, "Yo, can you put your dog on the leash, because in Central Park it's against the law. You know, they could be trampling over our gardens. They could be messing with the wildlife." And she's like, I can control my dog, but it's running around doing whatever. And then
Right.
she gets mad at him and is like, "Oh, I'm gonna call the cops and tell them that black man is harassing me." And she's like literally choking her dog while she's on the phone with the cops, making up this story. And it's like, really? Like, all you have to do is just put the dog on the leash. Why did it have to go to that situation? And like with her, not even, I don't know if she knew or not, but that could have turned into a George situation like this.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Because they see the color of our skin as something that is like, we have a pain tolerance, and we have this, and we have that, and we're animals, and it's not that way. That's
Right.
absolutely incorrect. I I have as much pain as the next person. Like, or my
Right.
husband has the next pain as the next person. So it should never be that. And it's like, we
Yeah.
do need to have these discussions.
Good. I'm glad you feel similarly about that. Now, again, I want to kind of go back to Juju's comment. So speaking from somebody from a white church,
Hmm.
yeah, we pretty much never talk about racism. So far as I can remember, it's not a primary topic on our minds. It's not something we focus on. It's not something we emphasize. And so I want to ask you a question, and I want people in my chat and your chat to be gracious with one another. You answer your mind on this, Visenya. Is that a problem? Is that a problem that in our white churches we're never talking about this topic?
Definitely. Like, think about it. A lot of cultures, a lot of people, they look at other cultures and they try to take from it because they like it. So my
Hmm.
whole thing about it is, if you like black music, you like how black people dress, and you want to dress like them, you wear black people hairstyles, you go to a store, and go ahead and you talking with a black person, you love them, you have black friends. Why are you not speaking about this? Why are you not trying to stand up? Why are you not trying to do something to help us with our movement, or help us, you know, come to get over the hump of this mess, right? And then it's
Right.
like, us as Christians, why we not help? Why we not freeing, letting our people go? That's my thing. Like, you know, it's not all fantasy and shines and all that. There is dirt behind everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way God died, he died on the cross. He was beaten, died on the cross, and bled. If that was modern day, he will be recorded, and guess what? We'll be writing the way we are now. So my whole thing is, we need to be talking about this. All churches.
Yeah.
I think it is a problem. I think there was this study. This teacher was in her class, and she said, if you want to be treated like a black person, I want everybody to stand up. And nobody stood up. And she's like, y'all not hearing me. If you want to be treated like a black person, stand up. If you want to be treated like how black people are treated, stand up. And nobody stood up. And she's like, why? And they was like, because they get treated bad. And she's like, you see the problem. Why you not doing nothing? Why you not
Hmm.
saying nothing? Why you not coming together and trying to fix the problem, right? We're
Yeah.
supposed to be the United States. United is in our title. Why are we not united? That's my
Yeah.
thing.
I think that's a really good point. And again, you reminded me of a couple things. You were talking about like the hairstyles, the music, all that type of stuff. To me, we were talking earlier about aspects of different cultures, right? And there's almost an emphasis in what you're talking about of wanting to take the good aspects of the culture, the things that I like about it, without bearing any of the burden or lifting any of the load of those aspects of the culture that I don't like. We're almost consumeristic with it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna go over to this culture. I like a few things from it. I'm gonna borrow from those, and then I'm just gonna let it be, right?
Yeah.
And you guys can worry about your problems. I got what I needed out of the
Right.
situation, right? And you also reminded me, about the fact that many churches were slow to react in terms of slavery, in terms of, and I'm not, let's not even treat it as a racial issue right now.
No.
It was certainly racial, but if you just think about slavery, period, that is a moral evil that we should want to do away with as Christians, and yet we were slow as molasses in actually doing something about it, right? And so, like you said, here's an issue in our day and age when it comes to actually being the hands and feet, when it comes to actually moving and doing something. It seems like we're oftentimes very slow to move.
Right. It's just like it feels like nobody's reading the full Bible. They're just reading a little bit of it. They take and pick apart the parts that they want. And this happens with all churches. This is not just one, because even with our black community, they pick apart things just to demonize us, right? So it's like they're not reading the full thing. They're not reading the full spectrum. Again, I've been to a white church, and a lot of them talk about especially in Sunday school, because I love Sunday school with the kids. It's just amazing. They're just brilliant little things, and everything is Noah. Noah's Ark and all this cute and yay. Then when you get older, it's like, okay, Moses and let my people go. People getting beat, people dying. You gotta sacrifice, put blood on the door so that the spirit don't come and take you. Like there's like a lot of stuff, and it's like, I guess we don't want to hear the scary stuff. We want to always hear God loves and God does this and God does that. We don't want to hear about the sovereignty. We don't want to hear about the struggle. We don't want to hear about anything else. We just want to see God as Sky Daddy. I put that in quotations, and it's not that. It's not that. Definitely not that. Absolutely.
Do you think
not.
that's an issue in minority churches as well? Because we deal with that all the time in white churches.
the Sky Daddy.
Yeah, exactly. We treat God like a lollipop giver, up in the sky, and we don't come to him unless we want something, unless we need something, and then we get what we need and we're out.
Yeah, that's I will say we do have that problem, but it's a little bit more on the being that the fact that they read the front and the back of the Bible, because we relate to it too much because of the oppression. Is just they'll demonize every single thing that is not correct to the Bible. So if it's not that, oh no, that's the devil. Like don't even talk to me. Here's some holy water. Let me put you in a bath. Let's baptize you again. That's how they will feel about the whole situation.
Right,
and then you're like, wow, okay. So that turns people away.
Yeah. So I want to go back to, again, Juju's question. I've been stuck on it for so long.
It's a really good
I want to follow up with this. Because I asked if you thought it was a problem that in white churches we never talk about this topic. I want to reverse roles. And again, I want everybody in everybody's chats to understand I mean this in the utmost respect, gentleness, as lovingly as I can. But I do want to ask this question. Do you think there's a tendency in minority churches to overemphasize the racism, to overemphasize that racial aspect, and maybe that they're missing the boat in a different way? What do you think?
I think they do because they're angry and nothing has been fixed. So what ends up happening is, it's like I've just learned this saying: be a bottle of water and not a bottle of soda. And what I mean by that is, like, if people keep shaking you, you pop.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Don't be a bottle of soda. Be a bottle of water. And I think that's being that, we trying so many things to get out of the oppression, and it feels like nothing is working. It's just anger there. And I think the anger and the hatred is gonna be there, and it's not necessarily for a race. It's mostly for the oppression, for the feeling of always having a weight on your shoulders, like there's always a brick on top of you. And I've seen people who because I watch a lot of black commentators that they do their own type of news so they could get like the real news out there. And there's this one guy, his what his name is, I don't know what his, I forgot, but he used to be called Advice Show, and he said he goes to Africa because you know, there, that's where the people is, that's where the people want us to be and stuff like that. And when he leaves, he feels good, but when he comes back, he feels that spirit of oppression on him. And I think that's where the key is. People, everybody is fighting over the wrong reasons. Yes, don't get me wrong, people are the reason why we oppress, but again, this is spiritual warfare. If you feel like a boulder's on top of you, that's not normal. That's not normal. That's spirits that's something attaching to you that shouldn't be there, you know? It just it I I think they do. And it's just because of the anger. It's anger, and it's generations of anger. And this is the stuff that we have to teach our kids every single time. Like me and Justin, you know, we would love to have children and stuff like that, but we're scared. And why we're scared? Because we look at things of like the nature that just happened, and it's like, okay, we tell our kids we want them to flourish and be whoever they want to be, but they really can't. Because if you tell the cop, hey, why are you arresting me? Oh, you're resisting arrest and blah blah blah, and you're getting beat up. And it shouldn't be that. Like, if I have my hands up and I'm defenseless, why? Like, you know, like, why? And then it just builds that and builds it. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah, so you made me again think of something. You mentioned spiritual warfare. Do you think, and again, just want your honest opinion, feedback, perspective on this. Do you think Satan's strategy for white Christians is to blind them to this issue, while Satan's strategy for minority Christians is to cause them to so obsess on and focus on the issue that they maybe lose sight of a bigger picture in some way, shape, or form? What do you think about that statement?
He came to steal, kill, and destroy. He doing whatever he can do. Like, I don't think that's just it. I think there's more to it too. It's blinding. It's being ignorant to it. Is us having our desires, because being that we're fueled from our desires, he banks on that. Oh, trust me. Right. Like, he's sitting there with a whole fish on the reel while you're sitting there swimming to it. You know what I'm saying? Bringing sheep to the slaughter room. And that's the thing. Like, it's just like he will continuously keep tugging and pulling at things that are the problem, or blind you so that you won't see it. And you be like, oh, I don't see it. I don't see it. And then when you finally realize it and you break down, and it's like, oh man, what have I been doing all this time? You know, I think that this is the reason why we come to God, is to get the veil torn off. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And I think we're missing that. We're missing that in our churches, all of our churches, not just my church, not just your church, all of our churches.
Yeah, and I think it's important that you bring up that spiritual. We need to recognize that. I'm sorry, but like, you watch the news, let's be honest, our culture is secular, right? Our culture doesn't even want to recognize God, doesn't want to recognize that the Spirit is part of the equation, doesn't want to recognize that Satan even exists, right?
No.
And we have to recognize, in this situation, in our churches, in everything that is going on, spiritual warfare is alive and well, it is active, right? And we need to recognize that on many levels, we could be being manipulated every single day, you know? And we need to understand that.
Right. It's like, the question is, to people who don't, is, how do you know you are who you are? How do you know the essence inside of you is real if we're not spiritual beings, if we're not just having this body for right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, granted, you know, I have my mind. I'm talking. I'm doing things. I have a personality. You know, where does that come from? Where does that stem from? That means you have a spirit of some sort. Like, you don't just, it doesn't be made from just anywhere. Like, come on. Think about it.
No, very, very good. And I'm so glad we got to kind of dive into that question in depth, talking about the relationship of our churches and our respective backgrounds to this issue. It's so varied and so different.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think we need to. I guess this is the first step for me. I don't know about for everyone else, but now I'm aware, right? Now I'm a little more aware of what's going on. Now I'm a little more aware of something that's going on outside of my experience, right? And then kind of like you were saying earlier, the next step is, am I going to do something? Right.
Right.
And that's something each of us need to think about.
Right.
Okay.
It just is.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go on to another question, and this pivots a little bit. The title mentions racism in America, right? We've been talking quite a bit about racism in the church and all that type of stuff.
Right.
Let's move on to the topic of America a little bit. How has America changed, especially maybe in the last 5, 10, I don't know how many years, but how has America changed so that this is such a prominent issue today? What do you think?
I don't. Okay, so how does America change? Honestly speaking, I think it didn't in a way because they use laws and regulations to restrict those. So like if you take a look at like our amendments, I think there's certain amendments that withheld black people from doing certain things. Like think about it this way: when it came down to people with felonies, they can't vote. That's a form of slavery right there. You can't vote because you're a felon. You don't have a voice. You don't have an opinion. Just because you did a crime. So like let's say if you did a petty crime because you was hungry. Oh, I needed some food. I did this real quick. Didn't even, got caught. And I changed my ways. Now I can't vote. And here we go. We have whoever now in office.
Sure.
And then you know, then it's the whole notion of back to being anger and being oppressed. They, especially in our black community, we feel like we shouldn't vote if we don't like the people. Instead of thinking about what is the things like who were the people that was first running? You know what I'm saying? Like everybody looks
Right.
at Biden and Trump now, but there was people before them. There was like Andrew Yang. I was going for him so hard, and he
Right.
fell off so hard because first of all, the media didn't want him at all. They were like, he's too controversial. They didn't want him. He was doing too much for his people, for the people in general. That
Yeah.
they were like, we can't have him be in office, and that's the crazy part. There's so many of us. Why are we not voting for? Why are we not like paying attention? Why are we not? We're so developed in the news. We're so meshed up in it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like even when it comes down to like CNN and Fox and them posting all these things, we believe in that so much, but we can't. You telling me you can't take a couple of minutes out your day, actually research a little bit of it to find out who needs to be in office, who can help us flourish, rather than keep restricting us and keep restricting us. Because tell you the truth, we have a whole bunch of old presidents. I'm tired of the old presidents. We need some newer. We need some new blood. I'm sorry. We need some new blood. We need people with like you know 40s, 50s. I'm tired of the 100-year-old looking people. Like we need fresher minds. We need people with cleaner slates, right?
Understood. Hey, you reminded me of something. And I think this is super relevant to this topic. Actually, you were talking about the media, right, and how they didn't push for Andrew Yang, and he fell off. What role do you think the media plays in in everything that's going on right now, all of that type of stuff? What role do you think the media? Because I think that whole realm is changing and shifting. People are, especially younger people, are getting their news online, watching YouTube. So what role do you think the media plays in all of this, in the elections, in America, in even, reporting out on issues like this? What do you think?
I feel like they play a huge role into dividing us because the thing about it is the news ain't what it was. Now the news is about whoever pays the biggest bucks gets the story or manipulates the story. So guess what? The news is the devil's advocate if you want to be honest about it. Not everything is factual, so you have to go back and you have to check check the sources, check if what they're saying is right. Like me, the reason why I found out about this situation with George, was because being that my Facebook is full of minorities, you know, my family is minorities. Guess what? They put the whole 10, no, it was a 12-minute video up. And I was like looking at it thinking it was just like regular old police brutality. No, man, I saw this man's life leave his body and it disturbed me so bad. And then to watch the media and they say, "Oh, well, his he had his knee on his neck for 2 minutes." No, boy, that was 12 whole minutes. You can kill somebody in 4. So like what? No. Stop it. Spare me with the lies, man. So I think it's devil's advocate.
I mean, you're laying down the heat with a statement like that, but I think there's a lot of truth to it. Honestly, the media. Let's be honest, and I please everyone hear me out on this. I do not mean in any way to minimize the situation. I don't mean to minimize what happened. You can't watch that and not be like, this is a horrible moral evil and moral wrong. You can't watch that and not come to that conclusion, right? So I do want everyone to know that, but thousands of people die every day, you know, and the ones we hear about are pushed onto us by the media, and ones we don't hear about often go undiscussed, right? And you know, we should be advocates for, you know, injustice, people who are treated poorly, immoral acts in every sphere, right? But I think you're right. There's something about what the media chooses to focus on, what they choose to push, what they choose to emphasize, that I don't know. I think we need to be a little bit wary of, and it sounds like you're saying the same type of thing.
Yeah, like think about it this way. Justin said, regular old brutality. That's deep, and it is deep because the thing is, we think of it as regular, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be regular. It shouldn't be normalized. But again, you have to know, not a lot of people, like, don't get me wrong. We see a whole bunch of black people die from the cops, but a lot of people that die from the cops is white people. Why are those not getting broadcasted? So this makes me feel like this is a modern lynching. Like, you know how back in the days they had like lynch people and people just sat there and with their mob things and watch people die? I think that's what this has become now. I think news became the modern lynching so that people could get off on this. And that's sad to say because not everybody feels this way. And I'm not saying everybody. I'm just saying right now for certain people with that type of spirit, they get off on this. They enjoy this type of stuff, and it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be that. That's why I say that the news is like devil's advocate. It's just what they want. They want you to see something so they could put that fear in you, so it could be normalized, so they can desensitize us and make us feel like, yo, this is normal. We can go ahead and do whatever, you know, and not feel any remorse. That's why we have a lot of people doing things thinking that is okay, and it's not okay.
Yeah. I had somebody send me a video this morning of a SWAT team that showed up to a hotel. And I don't know if you'd seen this or heard of this, but an individual, young white man, comes out of the room. Get on your hands and knees, right? Get on, and you can see, you're looking down the barrel of the gun. It's a vest cam, right? And they are giving him the most complicated instructions, directions ever, right? Hands in the air, you know. Now you gotta crawl over to me. So he starts putting his hands on the ground to crawl, right? No, put your hands back, and they want him to like shuffle on his knees, right? Like it was the most complicated game of Twister you've ever heard to try and follow their instructions, and they shot that man dead. They shot that man dead because he did not follow their directions right. But here's the reason I'm bringing it up. I'd never heard of this, right? This situation. The man was white. He was white in a hotel room, and here is a SWAT team shooting somebody, right? And you never hear about it, right?
Nope.
And it makes you wonder, just like you're saying, the devil's advocate, that there's a certain stress, a certain emphasis. They want you to focus on certain things, and you almost got to be wary of it and say, what's the ulterior motive here? Again, going back to spiritual warfare.
Exactly. That's the whole situation with Trump saying, oh, that's fake news. Every time somebody posted something on Facebook, and especially if somebody recorded it and they actually like took the recording, oh, that's fake news. How is it fake when somebody's like going through this, you know? And that's my whole thing. Like, somebody on my Facebook, I had to delete them because I felt like they were just too ignorant. They The reason why they don't show white people dying is because white people don't care. Are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me to actually say that? Because we don't care. What? No. I think everybody cares about a human life, and everything should be broadcasted. It shouldn't just be black people. It shouldn't be just Spanish people. It shouldn't be just anything. It should be, oh, this is what's happening. And my whole thing about the cops and the way that they handle things, I don't feel like it should take 6 months for a cop to get registered as a cop. I feel like it should take as long as it does for EMT, a doctor, anything of that nature. And I think they need psych evals. You can't just give a cop a couple of months out of academy and give him a badge. No way, absolutely not. He needs to become in the habit of doing things. Like, I went to school for graphic design for 2 years, you know what I'm saying? I had to learn how to do business etiquette, make sure that my stuff is on a deadline, make sure my stuff is timely. I feel like with them, it has to be the same way. They need to make sure that they know how to say commands instead of being scared or being weary. They need to make sure that they can hold themselves and say proper, clear commands and not get startled by any little movement. Because they're wearing vests. Like, come on, y'all. You guys are wearing helmets and vests. You're not going to get shot. And if you did get shot, you'll be living because you have protection, and it's like, it's not there, I think people in the military have better training than the people in the the cops departments. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And again, something about the media too. They are selective with what they cover, right? Like that they are emphasizing and focusing certain things for a certain reason and to achieve a certain end. So there was a question in Vess's chat. 8 says this, or B8.
9-ball.
Yeah, there you go. You know him. I don't. But says this, and I want to get your thoughts on this because I think it ties right into what we're talking about with the media and there being an ulterior motive there. Says this: I really think education is the key. What do you think about that concept or that idea?
I think 100%. If we had to go to school from babies all the way up to teenagers to then go to college and do what we had to do so that we can be whoever we wanted to be, I think the same thing goes for everything else in life. Everything else in life, education. Like, think about it. We wouldn't be Christians if we didn't educate ourselves on God.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? We have to read the word daily. We have to practice the word daily. And not only that, we have to pray. So, like, come on. That's learning and then practicing the behaviors at the same time so that we can be sufficient in everything that we do. So that we're not talking just straight out of our butts and we're talking exactly what God needs people to hear. So, like, definitely.
Yeah. So I want to ask a follow-up then. If education is key in this situation, what do you think the best way we can get educated or become if we can't trust the media, right? If they've got ulterior motives, like you said, if the devil's got his hands all in there, right? Then where do we go to get educated on this stuff? How can we learn about these topics?
Well, I think it comes down to there's other communities that are doing their own type of news, and they're doing it on YouTube. Like we listen to Roland Martin, we listen to Advice Show, we listen to Lovely T, we listen to we found these new 2 guys that they say the news. Not only that, a lot of these files, a lot of these records are public because a lot of criminal actions are public for the public eye. Not only that, they do have people who make their own blogs. You can go and you can look this stuff up in Google, and Google will give it to you. Like, here's everything from all different nations. Even people in the UK is talking about this, and they don't even live here. So, it's all about taking the information and then going to research. That's it. Because that's what learning is about. Learning is, here's a specimen, now come up with your hypothesis for it so that you can write your thesis. Right. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And so, again, you and I were talking about this earlier, but younger people, the younger generation is more and more turning away from, the standard traditional news media outlets, and we're turning to the internet often for these things. And you remind me of something again. I always jump off of your thoughts and your ideas.
It's okay.
No, it's great. People come to my chat all the time and ask, what is the best translation of the Bible to read? Right?
Oh, goodness.
Right. And I'm not even going to bring that up, but I'm bringing it up to illustrate a point. This is always my answer. Read multiple translations and compare them to each other. I think that's very helpful for you to do, right? Read multiple translations if you can and compare them to each other, right?
Right.
With all the news media people you just told me about, right? That you listen to several people. I think that is one of the best ways we can become educated on these topics, because every perspective is going to have their own emphasis, and if you're watching 5 or 6 different outlets, you're going to get a pretty good balanced perspective, I think, of what's going on. So I don't know. What do you think about that idea?
I think that's the way we have to do it. We have to fact check them, right? Like, don't get me wrong. Media is out there, and the reason why media is out there is because people are paying for them to be out there. There's advertisements, there's things there. With money comes power and manipulation. That's why God doesn't want us to focus on money, and he says, he told the rich guy, hey, if you want to follow me, you got to let go of everything. He didn't want to let go of it, and that's the thing. They don't want to let go of it. So their morals are compromised. And what you have to do is you have to fact check. Okay, this really happened. Let me go look it up. Look up that person's name. You look at other YouTubers are talking about it. I talk about it on my channel whenever it's brought up, because my channel is, they on it. they love talking about deep topics because they know that I'm not scared. So, we talk about them, and I tell them my stuff because I listen to different news outlets. And the reason why I listen to different news outlets, because I'm learning from my husband. He listens to different news outlets. And, it's really concerning to hear, like, a whole bunch of people say different things. And then, you go and you try to fact check, and these people make a little bit more sense than the news media. And that, I think that's a huge problem. So we have to do it. It's very important to do it.
Yeah, I think so too, and honestly, more and more, and I kind of feel like this is a young people thing. I don't know. It almost crosses generational lines, because I find a lot of older people, and if you're older, I'm not criticizing you at all. But I find a lot of them, they have their favorite news source, right, and they just listen to that, and that's the truth, and they just focus on that, and I feel like the younger generation is going everywhere, right? Like, we're fact check this, I'm gonna go over there, I'm gonna check this out and see what it has to say. We're all over the place, right? And I feel like, in terms of just getting a bigger picture and likely a more accurate picture, that can often be more helpful.
Yeah, I think what's going on a lot is the fact that older people are scared of technology. Let's just be honest, because they don't understand it. They didn't grow up with it. It's just they shy away from it, not knowing that it's very valuable to them in all type of aspects, because it's not working anymore with the old way. Just like when we was talking about how, like, the way that we evangelize and the way that we do church is not working anymore. It's not working. It's not drawing in nobody, because we're not taking it in the right. We're not taking the right approach. We're doing it the old style, and we need as time develops and grows, we need to develop and grow. We need to try to jump on the bandwagon, even if it's hard. Ask your little niece to pull up the stuff. They're on YouTube watching crazy stuff. They pull it up with no problem. Get yourself an Alexa.
You would love the older people in my congregation right now, because with the coronavirus, they are killing it. Right? I got people who, no joke, 6 months ago in my Bible study in our church, were saying, I'm never going to be on the internet. I'm never going to have a computer, right? And those exact same people are tuning into my digital Bible studies, my digital sermons, and they're loving it, right?
Yes.
You'd be so proud of them. And many of them come up to me and they're like, okay, I did it. I made a Facebook today. It's like, amen.
Yes. That's what's happening with us now, because my pastor does his stuff online, and now you see it slowly growing, because they're actually taking the initiative to get on their phones and, like, start typing and stuff. And that's the thing. We need to all grow, and we need to start thinking, taking our mind off of the news and what they do and start fact checking what they're saying. Because
Yeah.
a lot of this is public. That's the reason why they're the news, because a lot of it is public.
Right, absolutely. I just want to take a moment and let everyone know Twitch is an in and out platform, right? We probably have a lot more new viewers from what we had an hour ago. So I just want to give everyone a reminder. If you are interested in asking a question on this topic for Visenia and I to tackle, please do so. Jessie is in the chat. She's fielding questions. If you would say hi in both chats, so they know your username and know who to send their questions to. We are loving interacting with you guys and your questions, right? Again, this is meant to be a discussion where we're all in the topic together, right? We may not all have the microphone and the headphones on or anything like that, but we're all talking about this together, and we value everybody's input, questions, ideas, all that type of stuff. So please send that stuff to Jess, and we're going to keep fielding those as we go.
Right.
In light of that, I want to shift gears, and you mentioned this briefly. You said your chat brings these things up because they know you're not afraid of it, right?
Right.
I want to now move on to the idea of what role does fear, what role does anxiety, what role do our emotions and our feelings that we feel towards these things, what role do those things play when it comes to this issue as we're trying to tackle it in today's day and age?
I think a lot of it, because a lot of my posts, they have, the majority, they have anxiety. They can't handle tough topics because they feel panicked. And the thing about it is, when are you going to stop feeling it? And it's when you do something. And my whole thing, when I went to counseling, my counselors used to say, accept the things that you can't change and accept the things that, and change the things that you can. And the thing is, this is something we can change. This is something we can change. This is something we can have a voice about, and we can come together and we could do things to help lift that anxiety and that pressure and that, everything. The thing about it is, life was never intended to be easy. Like, let's just be for real.
Right.
You got to think about it with like death. Like, we have to face death, right? We have to face it. We have to see it. We have to go to funerals. We have to feel these emotions. By shutting it out and trying to numb yourself to the situation, it gives you more fear. It gives you more anxiety. And there you go. You have a boulder on top of you. And now you all you want to do is run. And the thing is, you can't run. You can't run because you're going to have to face this sooner or later. You're going to have to speak up for it sooner or later. Something's going to happen where you're going to have to come out your shell. I always try to like revert back to me, because Justin is my witness. My relationship with my mom sucks. I hate talking to her. She's so entitled and she's so manipulative and so everything, guys. Like, it's horrible. And it's like, every time I have to come in contact with her, I have to come in contact with her and deal with that. Do you think I want to do that? No. So what I have to do, I have to learn about boundaries. I have to learn about breaking from that shell. I have to learn how to give myself, okay, this is what you're going to say. I'm going to listen a little bit, but if it gets a little bit too crazy, I'm going to move on to the next thing. You can't just sit there and I'm going to just stay quiet and let everything happen, because that's what I did for years. And I tell you, no lie, it did me nothing but wrong. I have PTSD to this day. And I don't like confrontation. I don't like conflicts. But guess what? Every time I stream, that's what happens. I just had a run-in with somebody not so long ago because I had a different view on how conventions should be run or how people should act at conventions. And they hated that and said that I was toxic just because I had an opinion. And it's like, what? So, and then I tried to tell them to elaborate, and they didn't want to elaborate whatsoever. And it was a real uncomfortable, nasty, like, feeling to have that done. But all I could have said was, okay, God bless, keep it going, And
yeah.
If you don't want to talk about it, you don't want to talk about it.
Got you. I got a question. Do you think you streaming has, because you described some of these feelings, these emotions that you struggled with in the past, right? Do you think you streaming has helped you to confront those, deal with those, and move through those or move past those?
I think so, because I'm not super scared in saying my opinions as I was before. Like,
Hmm.
before, I used to be really conform and not say anything, and um, be like, oh, whatever I say will hurt people. Like, even when I get on stream sometimes and I talk about like controversial topics, especially when it comes down to like minorities, I'll be like, oh my God, I'm scared, because like when it comes down to, the white sector of our pulses, how would they feel about it? But the thing about it is, what I started telling myself was, they need to hear this, and they need to know our scaredness and our struggle and everything, and we need to talk
Right.
about this so that they know what's going on. They're not blinded by the fact that, hey, everything is go lucky with Vest, and we're drawing all day, and we're drawing characters, and
Right.
yay, kawaii, wow, and it's not that. It's not that. And there was times where I was taking care of my brothers and my sisters, and I had a lot of struggles, and it was just crazy, crazy struggles every single day with them, every single day with my mom, and I will state them on stream. And so that is my witness, because he'd be like, Bess, don't be talking about personal stuff on stream. I'm like, I got to vent. I'm sorry. People need to know. People need to know this is a struggle. People need to
Yeah.
know how I grew. People need to know what's going on, so that they know who I am, who they looking at, who they supporting, who they're watching. Because the thing about it is, it's just like us choosing a president. We need to know these people so that we can get somebody that we're following that's the correct person. This is the person that's right for me, you know?
Yeah. How, for somebody who doesn't stream, how you said confronting those things through streaming kind of helped you work through that.
Mm-hmm.
For somebody who doesn't stream, doesn't have that outlet, isn't constantly engaging in that way, how do you think they can move through some of their feelings of anxiety, difficulties surrounding these sorts of topics?
I think they need to get friends that keep it 100. I'm tired of people getting friends that be like, oh, I agree with you. I agree with you. Not everything is an agreement. Your
Yeah.
friend, it would not agree with you 100%. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. Like, ride or die. We're together. We're this, we're that. I grew up in the society of that. But the thing about it is, not everybody who agrees with you is your friend. So you have to put people around you that's going to tell you the truth. Girl, that outfit is horrible. Change it. Something
Yeah.
so that you can spark conversation, you can learn boundaries, and you could learn how to get past all these feelings that you're feeling.
Yeah,
That's
I think that's so important, and I'm glad you said that, because if there are these no-go zones, I don't know how to put it, right? Like, if there are these topics that we just can't talk about because Jennifer always just loses her mind, or whatever, right? Um, what ends up happening is we don't grow. We're not challenged. We're not forced to get outside of our comfort zone, and we could just have this little echo chamber that we create around ourselves of people that never you know cause us to feel bad feelings or think bad thoughts. But what ends up happening is that we never change. We're never confronted, right?
yeah.
And so I love that you said that, because I think it's a primary issue that a lot of people end up doing. If somebody offends you, what do? You cut them out,
Yeah.
right? I'm done with them, right?
Yeah.
Until you've pruned the friends in your life to yes men, people who just agree with you and say, okay, yeah,
Exactly. And that's what we don't need. We don't need yes men's. We need people to actually talk and give us, I would say, enrichment, right? Like communicational enrichment, so that we can know how to talk. Because I think that's the problem. Everybody's like this every 5 minutes. They could be
mm,
warriors doing this, but they can't be
right,
warriors doing this. Like, that's my whole
yeah,
thing. Like, you have to try to be. You have to. This is not your shield.
mm,
This is not your shield. This
yeah,
is this is just a phone. It can break anytime. That person could, do more causes.
yeah, yeah,
And it's like, that's not your friend. You gotta get friends that they're gonna give you some type of enrichment in your life.
yeah. Oh, that's good. We've got a question. This is from Teriyaki.
Oh.
And I think I'm getting this question right. Teriyaki says this: there's news of contact tracing people that they're arresting that they don't belong into that city, that people are driving in to the cities from other places, right? And I don't know, rioting, causing havoc, all that type of stuff. They don't actually even live there. They're driving in from other places. Teriyaki asks, what do you think that could mean?
That means that there are people behind the scenes doing things to make this look worse than what it is. Like, I just saw a video of a guy. He was dressed in all black with a mask, and he was actually opening the doors of the businesses and having people, because automatically if you see a door open, especially if you're not in the right mind, let me go steal. So they were opening these doors and breaking the glasses of the window to make it look like it was the people, but it turned out it wasn't them. It was, them. And the people will gravitate because that energy, you know what I'm saying? People are energy and spiritual people. Whatever you put out in the world, trust me, you're going to feel it and it's going to drag you. And I think that's what's happening. Being that these people have like a ulterior motive, that energy that they bring into that city just keeps dragging and dragging, and things get worse and worse and worse instead of getting better. Lovely T kept saying it's anarchy. Like there's anarchists coming and doing it, and they had like chainsaws and stuff because she lives in Minneapolis, and she's like, people need to look, and the cops need to stop those people from coming in to making things worse. Because now, last time I checked, New York, they're putting fire to NYPD. And that's buildings. Those are like 20-story buildings. So imagine a 20-story building going on fire and dropping. That's just like the World Trade. You know what I'm saying? So they have to be really careful and try to like look out for the city, for the people's sake. Because that's what the cops are there for, to serve and protect. They need to do some serving and protect and stop killing. That's what they need to do.
Yeah, I have two thoughts on this. I could imagine if I lived nearby and I was of, like you said, of a mindset that I wanted to go cause some trouble. I mean, here's an opportunity, right? To like you said, anarchists. If somebody wants to just go cause a bunch of trouble, here's a golden opportunity served up to them on a platter to go ahead and just go do it, right? So I could easily see a bunch of people just trying. Oh, here's an opportunity to go do it. There's a bunch of people that out there that would love to take advantage of a situation like this, and they don't even think of it as they're making a lot of other people's lives a lot worse, right? They're just I can go cause trouble without getting in trouble about it at all. No one's gonna catch me. Nothing's gonna happen there, so why not, right? And the other thing I think too is I do think you have a subset of people who, like you were talking about, they kind of have an ulterior motive, right? Like you said, they're opening the door trying to make it look like their store was looted or somebody smashed it when nothing had happened, right? They have an ulterior motive. It reminds me again of our discussion on the media, right? And you have all sorts of people trying to manipulate the media in that sense, manipulate the news and how it's perceived by the country at large.
Right. You have to think about it, guys. We're in a pandemic also, so this is a place where everybody's losing their jobs. They are hungry. They're going through things. So there are going to be people going to a specific city to loot, to open these gates. Why? Because they want to get the food. They want to get the stuff that they can before it all dies down, and they can't do that. You know what I'm saying? So everything is playing into the game. Yes, don't get me wrong. We have the George Floyd, and now we also have the pandemic on top of that. So it just made things. When a door is open, and that's what happened. Yeah. It was just like an open and golden opportunity, and I think it's happening. I think that they need to stop these people from coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just one more time plug, if you're interested in asking your question, send it to Jessie, at Jessie Lee Thetford. She's in both chats. Go ahead and hit her up with your questions, and she'll send them on our way, and we can ask them here on stream. We're interested in the communication. I want to follow up with this concept we keep talking about: fear, anxiety, emotion. Let's say you are in an individual conversation with somebody. Okay, so you're talking with somebody maybe over coffee or whatever. You're in that individual conversation with them, and you can tell they are getting emotionally charged, emotionally hyped up to the point where you feel like they're not even able to think clearly about the topic. how would you deal with that situation? How would you interact with that individual to try and have a helpful conversation with them?
My question is always why? Why you feel that way? And it makes them even more mad.
That's the opposite of what we're trying to do.
I know, but I always ask them, like, I'm telling you, like, I'll be like, so why do you feel that way? And they'll get super mad and then they'll just go off. And, you know, I believe in, like, letting that person just ramble on while you sit there and you collectively think of, like, the best thing to say next. And, you know, you just say what you have to say next. Like, look, I don't mean to offend. You know, I just wanted to see your outlook, and I felt like blah 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 blah. You know, don't
Sure.
don't like fuel it up with your anxieties and your hate. I would just say, like, take a step back and try to see the other person's perspective.
Yeah,
And ask
sure.
why. Like, don't get me wrong, why is gonna get you in trouble.
Sure.
But it's a needed and necessary question because they give them time to vent so that you can come up with the best solution on how to address that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're essentially saying that you kind of give them space, you give them room. You're not going to press them, right?
Oh no.
Because they're obviously struggling with the issue, right?
Yeah. Like
Got you.
again, with that person that came into my stream and was like acting up and called me toxic and called my community toxic, I was like, okay. You know, I got them out of the drawing, and then they left, and I was like, just leave it at that. Stop talking about it. Let them be. It's a wrap.
Yeah. Oh no, that's good, and I think it's important. You know, again, we said this at the beginning, but people need a space for their emotions and their feelings to be heard, to be recognized, to be understood, right?
Right.
And they'll act out if that's not the case. So I think doing that, just kind of giving them that room, is very, very helpful and probably helps them to calm down and get into a better state where they can actually, you know, again, have a rational discussion on the topic, right?
Yeah. Because it's like a much needed thing. And the thing is, again, if you know how to make good friends, you wouldn't have friends like that. You will have people who actually give you that conversational enrichment, you know? You should
Right.
only be receiving that from people who don't know you. Like, that's it.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, I want to move on, and if we don't get any more from chat, this will probably be our last question. I want to move on to this. What's the next step? What should we actually do going forward as Christians who, you know, are focused on this idea in the church, but not only in the church as well, but, you know, in our nation, in our country. What should we do? What's the next step? How should we proceed as Christians to at least get the ball rolling in terms of working towards a proper solution? What do you think?
I think it's time to talk about it. It's time to at least get our minds to the situation of, are we gonna fight this cause and how we gonna do it? Instead of, granted, we can march all we want to do. We can march all we can. We can riot as much as we can, but the thing doesn't stop. It's not gonna stop if we don't come together as a union and do what we have to do. Like, I appreciate the marching, and I appreciate us venting, because most of the marches is us venting. Because again, the marching and us rioting is because we're not heard. We're not understood. So, you know, if people who this is crazy, because with animals, we can go to City Hall with no problem, march over there, complain to them, and make a law. And now animals are treated fairly. Why can't we do the same thing? Why can't we all come together and be like, look, if we getting inhumane justice, and it is crazy going on with these cops, we need to change something. Let's all go together to the White House or something, and let's go and let's complain. Let's try to change some laws. Let's try to make some laws. Try to do something. And then with the churches, we need to, like, come together and do what we was meant to do. Evangelize. Get our people together. Stop having this barrier. And stop thinking that, you know, you above everybody. You're not. Everybody's the same. We all the same. We all down the same path. let's get together and do what we have to do. We have the same goal. We trying to get to God. So we need to just do what we have to do and try to bring as many people as we can with us. And that's just it. You know, God was walking with 12 disciples, and guess what? He had a whole army behind him because they trust that. And I feel like, why don't we have an army behind us? Each of us should have 12 disciples plus a whole crazy much of people, and it's not happening that way. It's always, oh, we're gonna stay together and it's gonna stay this way, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be us taking charge and doing what God intended us to do, like what He wanted us to do.
Yeah, and to me that goes back to that education comment we were talking about earlier. You know, I think it's so important for us, like what we're doing right now, I think is helpful to finding a solution to these things, right? Getting outside of our comfort zone, you know, asking questions, trying to view things from a perspective that is different than ours. You know, I think all of that is very, very helpful. And what you said right at the beginning, you said talking about it, right? Like we need to open up the lines of communication. We need to have a discussion. I'm amazed at how many times that somebody having a problem with their marriage, is somebody having a problem at work, is 9 times out of 10 it comes back to communication, right? Like so often communication is one of the things that we're struggling with. And I think you're right. I think the fact that we need to open up these lines of communication, we need to have discussion, we need to share our experiences with one another and have that better, you know, understanding and be able to, you know, encourage and motivate one another in that way. I think that would make all the difference.
Yeah, that's just how it is. You know, we all have. Not everybody thinks the same. Like, just because I'm part of a community doesn't mean I think the same as that community. Everybody was made differently, and the reason why we was all made differently was because we was meant to be helpers of each other. That's why Adam and Eve got to, you know, he took his rib and made Eve because he was like, you're gonna need a helper. And my whole thing is, don't get me wrong, we enter this world alone, but we're in a world full of people, and I think we miss the fact that we have no communication. We can't do things right. We're not being the helpers we were intended to be. We were not like, what's going on? Like, what are you guys doing? And you know, the thinking as a human, like, all that is out the window because of the desensitization. We need to rip the blinds off and get ourselves situated where this is not normal. All this stuff that's happening, in this world is not normal. Everybody want to talk about, oh, it's the end times. It's the end times. Jesus coming soon. But honestly speaking, you know, I think he has a little ways to go still. And during his little ways to go, shouldn't we be like rallying up as much as we can? Like, you know, shouldn't we communicate as much as we can so that we can push forward? And I feel like all our communities need to know. Our brown people, our black people, our white people, they need to know what's going on, what's the oppression, what's happening. We need to fact check this stuff. We need to stop broadcasting what's happening and actually get justice for it. I don't think cops should be getting fired if you killed somebody. You need to be in jail. You shouldn't be in the luxury of your house chilling. Like, you need to be in jail. You know, like, where's thou shalt not kill came? Like, okay, you know, just because he was on the job, you know, I don't know what's up with people need to change. People need to know what's going on. People need to be more educated, and they need to put their feelings aside and think more logically about it. Like, I know it's hard because we are very feeling type of people, but we have to think things logically. Like, you think burning everything and, you know, stealing everything is gonna help this? No. Like, you saw what happened with Trump talking about, if they loot, we shooting. Like, you know, like, evil on top of evil on top of evil on top of evil, when communication can fix so much of this mess. And on top of that, putting the people that belong where they belong at there, like, you know, the people in jail. Like, he should have been in jail. He should not have been at home. He should have been in jail till they figured all this stuff out.
Sure. Yeah, I've got a few thoughts on it. first of all, I love what you said about fact checking, right? I think that's essential. We need to recognize we live in a world, again, going back to spiritual warfare, but it's real, guys. It's real. If you don't believe in spiritual warfare, I'm sorry. It is out there. It is going on. We need to be aware of it. And but going back to that topic, we need to be aware that we are constantly, every single one of us, being manipulated. Right? We're being manipulated and lied to, and just like you were saying, I asked, hey, do you think Satan's strategy is this over here? And you're like, he doing everything.
Yeah, he doing everything.
Yeah.
Listen, this is his. This is his
That's
kingdom.
Right.
Like, this ain't God kingdom.
That's right. Any way that he can to trick us, lie, steal, deceive, he's doing. And so we need to recognize, I think, in all sides of the conversation that's part of what's going on, is that there is manipulation out there. And I don't know how to put this, but I think we need to cultivate maybe a healthy skepticism that when somebody just comes along and says, did you see what they did over here? Did you we need to protest, we need to write, whatever, right? Let's hold the phone for a second.
Right. Can I see that link that you were talking about? Like, I was like seeing, I posted up like how it was like a pacifier on a mask, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a neat idea for kids. So I posted it, and somebody was like, that can kill a baby. And I was like, what? How? Can you send me the link? And they sent me the link, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh yeah, that can kill a baby. So I put like, disclaimer, do not put this on any child that's like ages 3 and down. This is for people for 3 and up, and that's all about fact checking and making sure that the science meets up. Because man, I'll be super depressed if a kid got messed up because of something I posted.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you did that, right? You followed up with the fact check, and you said no, we there needs to be some caveats to utilizing this, right?
Right.
The other thing that I think is really important is you said this, we need to put our emotions aside, and again, we've been talking, there is a place for feelings and emotions, right? Don't get me wrong. And I think we as Christians need to create safe environments, safe spaces, if that makes sense, to air out your feelings and emotions, for people to just I don't know, emote outwardly, right? For them to just have that space to do that in a way where you're going to say, hey, look, you're not going to be judged for this or anything. You know what I mean? This is a very emotional situation, right? But there is a sense in which we do need to move past it, right? Like, you have that opportunity, and then it's like, okay, now let's think about this. Let's talk about it. Let's try to work out what is actually going on here. So right. I think that could help a lot too.
Yeah, I think there's I think because God gave us the spirit of discernment. And when you talk to people, you get that discernment. You know what I'm saying? So, like, let's say you're talking to somebody and they get angry, or if not get angry, they try to bash you in any type of way where it's not, oh, well, that's not of God, or that's not how we do things here. That's when you're supposed to think, okay, let me take a different approach. And instead of talking to this person, who's the higher up to you, like, every day, my sister complains about this. She says every time she's in the store, they always ask to talk to the manager, and she's the manager. So she has to spin around. It's like, I'm the manager. And it's like, if you could do that in the store, you should be able to do that with your officials. You should be able to do that with anything that you're trying to make a change on. Can I speak to the higher ups? Can I get their number? Can I get something? We have a democracy, regardless of what politics status you're at. We still have a democracy. We still have something. But we do have that discernment. So, like, if somebody that's talking to you, or they're too much in their emotions, or they're not thinking of things logically, or they're being really ignorant about it, you can tell, because that's what we have.
Right. Yeah, and then the third thing that I think is just sticks in my mind is again having that interacting with people who differ from you, who have different background, who have different opinion, who have different ideas, who have different, dare I say it, theology, right? I'm a pastor, right? Having that interaction and asking genuine questions, not to try and attack somebody, not to try and trap them, but to actually understand. where they're coming from, why they think the way they do, all of those things. I think that can be so helpful. We're the body of Christ, right?
Yes.
And God has given each of us different sets of gifts, different ideas, different way of thinking about the world, and I just think that's so helpful. It's so beneficial to have that interaction. And again, I said this earlier in the talk, but I want to say it now too. That's part of why I'm so excited that you decided to come on and we could do this interview together, right? Is because, we were discussing it. We have different backgrounds, we have different perspectives, we have different opinions on these things, and yet we can have that discussion in such a way that I know you open my eyes, to a lot of ideas, and I hope each of us were able to open, people in the chat's eyes to some of these things, at least how we view things, right? I just think that's so helpful and so beneficial, and something we need to be more and more willing to do in the church and in society in general.
Yeah, because like the whole stem of like racism and stuff like that, some of it is taught to their generation. So like, of course, it's gonna be an ongoing thing because their peoples they're getting taught this as their children, and they grow up to do this. And the thing is, like, you have to be able to ask these people why, like why do you feel that way? Forget what grandma said. Forget what grandpa said. Why you feel the way that you feel? What did I do to you? What did any of us do to you that you feel the way that you feel? And I just straight up discussing with them, trying to like see where their mindset is at. Try to again take off the veil, because I think everybody has this. I think a lot of people just like horses. They just have like things like this, and the thing is, no, we have a wider, Earth is not flat. It's circle, people. It's round. We need to go ahead. We need to explore these avenues. We need to and we need to explore the avenues with respect. So, I always that's how I do with my stream. Respect the people. Don't make them feel a certain type of way. Granted, we talk about controversial topics. Granted, they don't like half the stuff I say. I don't like the stuff that they say. But I'm not going to, bash them, I have a whole bunch of people with different flavors, different religions, different everything back in there. And it's the only thing that matters is us building each other up. And then what is our reason behind building each other up, right? And why? Because we're humans, we together in this world, we have to live and see each other all the time. Why not, right? Why not do it?
Yeah, I liked what you said about respect for one another. Peter, in his epistle, talks about, he says, always be ready to give an answer for the hope you have within you. And he's talking about why you're a Christian, be able to answer that question, be willing to answer that question. He says, yet do so with gentleness and reverence. And some translations say respect, right? And I think that's so essential, right? Is, not every person who disagrees with me is, trying to get in a fight with me.
Yeah.
Not every one of them is attacking my, personal existence just because we have a little bit of a different opinion on something.
Yeah.
Right? So,
even with my facial expressions, I'm from New York. We talk with our hands. We talk loud. We roll our eyes, not even know we roll our eyes. And some people be like, Vez, why was you rude like that? And I'm like, what? So I'll look back at it and I'm like, okay, I see that I was talking with my hands and I was doing a lot, but it's not that I was being malicious or being anything of that nature. It's just the way that I'm expressive. I'm Spanish. We're like spicy people. We like to do all this, and it's I think people are too sensitive right now. People are way too sensitive for their own good, for everything. If you kill a bug, they're sensitive. If you trip and you fall and you laugh at that person, oh, why you laughing at me? Because I trip and no, it was, something that startled me. So that's my mechanism of, responding to it,
right.
It's don't be too sensitive, guys. You got to guard your heart a little bit better. And a lot of people, they don't know how to guard their hearts the way that they need to guard their hearts. I don't believe in thicker skin, but I do believe in not taking everything too personal, especially if that person doesn't know you or you trying to have a conversation and you trying to understand their perspective. Because you asked the questions. If you really didn't want to hear it, you should have never said anything.
Right. And I like that idea you said of guarding your heart. I think we, especially if I can speak to it for a moment, we need to do this more in the Christian church, especially when it comes to, honestly, theology, doctrine, all that. There are so many things in churches I've noticed where it's them's fighting words, right? Like if you say this or that wrong, we have all these very particular definitions, right? And if you don't fall in line exactly with all of my particular definitions, well, them's fighting words, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
you're out. And it's like, have you ever thought to just stop and ask, hey, what did you mean by that? Just ask a clarifying question. You know, uh, help me understand where you're coming from on this, and let's have a discussion about it. Rather than, like you said, being so sensitive. Instead, we might be able to make some good progress in terms of how you feel about the topic, how I feel about the topic, and get a better understanding across the board.
Yeah, especially for us streamers, like, um, we I can only speak for myself, but I'm a type of person, a type of streamer that respects all the people who watch me, all the people that follow me, and I try to give them like I try to give them their space in their room. And then, if I have an opinion, sure, I'll say the opinion, but I don't mean it with ill intent. I just mean it because, hey, this is what I think.
Yeah.
If we can talk about why I'm wrong or why you're wrong, then let's do it. Why not, right? Like, why does it have to be us, fighting or us doing extra stuff that we shouldn't have to do? Like, it goes
Yeah.
back with God. Like, he was sitting there chalking it up with all the sinners. Like, they're like,
Right.
you supposed to be the son of man. You supposed to be God's son. Okay, you over here with drunkards. Like, get out of here. And he's like, mind your business. Like, mind your business.
Yeah.
You
So
don't get it.
right, right. No, I got you. Okay, we got another question. This is from Ghetto Nerd Society.
Ooh,
I love
ghetto.
that. That's fantastic. Oh man, and Ghetto Nerd Society is dropping some heat. So here's the
Ooh.
question. My question is, how do I approach my teenage and young adult son about what's going on right now from a Christian perspective? Whew, that's a big one. What do you
Ooh.
think, Visenia?
Oh wow. Okay, so
How
that's
do I
gonna
approach?
be rough. The thing
Yes.
about it is, in your home, you again. Not saying this is. I'm not saying that your parenting skills are wrong or anything of that nature, but what we learn in the book is we should train up a child in the way they should go. So if you're daily practicing your faith in front of them, they're gonna grab hold to that. Not saying that you're forcing them, because I had this tendency where I wouldn't force my brothers and sisters, but I will practice it. And they're like, "Yo, but why you so jolly? Why you this? Why you that?" And I'll show them books and I'll read the Bible to them and stuff like that. You have to give them a reason of of wanting to gravitate. The reason why you gravitate. I got gravitated by a cupcake. Let that sink. And it was because I was going through something. And the thing is, if you feel like it's in your heart to tell your son about what's going on in a spiritual sense, in a Christian sense, that means it's because it's supposed to be told. So whatever you have to tell him, trust me, God has his heart open already, because God is a way ahead of you before you even get there. So the thing is, if you studied your faith and you strong behind your faith and your children seen it, oh, trust and believe, they will gravitate to whatever you have to say, because you're their parent, you're their first God. When they cry, they cry mommy, they cry daddy, they don't cry God. So you know that's the people that they're gonna gravitate to. And be I would say be gentle with it. And if he has any like questions and stuff like that, don't dismiss him and don't say it's demonic, and don't do none of that. Ask questions. Why do you feel that way? Oh, okay. Well, this is why I feel this way. And like teach him how to communicate, so that when he does make it out in the world, he's going to remember that. He's going to remember that. It's going to stay stained on his heart. And it might open up doors. You don't even know. It can open up a lot of possibilities, because, my little brothers, the reason why they came to God was because I was always like, yo, look at what happened. I was in a crazy situation. My mom kicked me out. I had nothing, guys. I was with my husband, had nothing. I got married. I ended up having a house. I ended up having a car. I ended up having my own business. A lot of things grew from that. So it's like, not everything is a struggle. Not everything is like, you know, bad or anything of that nature, things can happen, possibilities can happen, doors can open, and you have to listen to your heart. If it's telling you, yo, you have to talk to him about this, you have to talk to him about it. Especially if you're a minority, you have to teach your son, you have to teach your daughters how to how to handle themselves. Because I'm not going to victim shame and say that, it was the victim's fault that they end up dead. But I'm trying to say they need to learn how to talk to older people. They need to know how to communicate with that person and make sure that they can hear that person out and stay quiet. Hear that person. Then when that person is quiet and you feel that they're done, then you say what you have to say. You know what I'm saying? That's it. Just regular old communication. When my husband is mad at me, he talk to me, and yeah, I get all crazy, but he knows me. But if it was a different story, I usually have to take a step back and like, okay, what did I do wrong? Let me check it out. Let me talk. Let me try to communicate with that person so they don't feel that they're getting demonized. And that's the key. You don't want them to feel demonized, especially if you're a Christian. You don't want to. Well, that's not right because I don't feel it's right. God doesn't feel it's right. No, don't do that. Just have a natural discussion. Just talk about it. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. If I could just add a couple thoughts. You know, it this is partially dependent upon the age of your children, right? Younger children are obviously going to have much smaller understanding and inability to think through the topic in complex ways. But I do think that depending on their age, this is a good opportunity to have discussions about these hard topics, and to have discussions about some of the difficulties that are going on in the world, some of the difficulties they're bound to face as they go out in the world. And it can be so helpful to teach a child how to think through something logically. We were pointing out during the interview how just leaning into feelings and emotion has so often led to difficulties and problems in this area. And teaching your children how to think through the topic, even if you're learning together, right? Like you don't have
Yeah.
to be the person with all the answers neither. You could just be asking good questions, let them respond, and kind of going back and forth and thinking through the ideas together. I think that can be very, very helpful and very beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think the word, just like Visenia was talking about, is very important, right? You said as a Christian, from a Christian perspective, going to the Word, going to the Bible, and being able to emphasize those aspects that are relevant, I think is very, very important. So yeah, those are just some thoughts I had as well. It's a tough situation. That's not something that's easy. I don't think anyone would say that's easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead, Bess.
Yeah, another thing to piggyback off of it, you have to think about it like, how is this making you feel? And if that child is like 11 or 10, where they're like in the questioning phases, this is a perfect opportunity to be like, look, this is how I'm feeling, and this is how I'm dealing with it. Because you have to understand, your testimony is the only thing that's going to get through to them. Because again, we are visual creatures. We are creatures that love story. So if we can gravitate to the story and what's making you so subtle and why you feel that you're okay and all that good stuff, that's gonna just spill out. You know what I'm saying? Like when I talk about my story and like how, I was in an abusive home and stuff like that. And for me to get over that hump was to believe in God and stuff like that. It was like, I'm telling you guys why I got over this hump, why I feel confident where I'm going and where I'm heading and where I'm going to be in the future. So this is going to give them hope, and this is going to actually spark up questions like, okay, so what's so good about God? And then that's when the conversation gets, okay, you want to know? Pull out everything. They got photos, they got action Bibles, they got all these crazy good stuff for you to, inspire your kids. And it's going to work because it inspired my little brother. My little brother, he's like a Uber nerd. So like he loves the action Bible. He comes to my house and he just pulls that bad boy out and he looks at
That's awesome.
the pictures, and that's because it gravitated him, and that's how him and my little brother got saved. Like that's how they were able to get baptized, because they were always seeing it. They were always feeling, yo, there's something up, and what is this, and I want to feel this when I get older type stuff. And that's what kids always gravitate to. They love that stuff.
Yeah.
That I think God says, come to me, the children. Come to me when
Right.
you are babes. Like, because they'll they'll do more miracles than you can do. Because the thing about it is we're so cynical because so much had happened to us, but they're so fresh in the mind that they can explode into better and bigger things. So do it now.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like you said, train up a child in the way they should go, right? Very, very, very important. Juju brings out a good point on this topic. Different cultures have different ages when it comes to the question of are they old enough, right? I mentioned that age is important. He says this: we have to have tougher discussions with our young black males because outsiders tend to see them as older than they actually are.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Bess?
I think it's very true. When it comes down, like you see it in media, when somebody who is lighter skin, they do something like that guy that was what was he? He was a swimmer.
Michael Phelps.
Yeah, Michael Phelps, and he did whatever he did. He was seen as a young boy, and this man is like 25 years old, and it was like okay. And then recently, we just had a 12-year-old get convicted as a felon for doing something, but they called him a rapper and a thug and all that stuff, and he got convicted. And the thing is, he's 12 years old. He's not a child. He's not a grown man. He doesn't even know what he's doing. He's just seeing what is emulated out there, and that's the truth. They will see us as older, and granted, we have to mature faster, and it sucks. But we have to have these discussions and continuously tell our kids, look, this is how you do this and this is how you do that. And this is just because of your safety. I'm not doing it because I want to control you. I'm just doing it because I want you to be safe and I worry. That's it. I'm safe, don't get me wrong, I'm safe, I'm worried. I could pray for you as much as I can. But, what's prayer when we didn't even install the meat in you? The actual stuff that you need to know is whatever. Gotta be like, okay, yeah, I'll take a look at it, but it's up to your child because that's free will. So you have to install that in your child first. Install that stuff.
Yeah, and no one's gonna know better than you whether your child is ready for something like that. And I know you may be sitting there thinking, well, I don't know either, so nobody knows, right? But you're gonna have to when it comes to a situation like this, you're gonna have to make tough judgment calls and look for those opportunities. Lean into God, pray about it, and then go with a heart full of faith that God is going to utilize this conversation, this discussion, profitably in their lives, right?
Yeah, because DJ says because what America is experiencing is ungodly, and is not. This world is not based on godly sense how it used to be. The world used to flourish on His word. Now it doesn't. Don't get me wrong. He does have His people here, and He does try to push, but this is not something that He's controlling. Like, this is truly the enemy's playground. Like, this is truly He fell. Think about that, y'all. He fell. So he fell down here, and he was like, all right, I'm taking everybody with me. That's it. And that's his motive, and that's his goal. And the thing is, we have to think past that. We got to think about, different. Like, if you feel that, you have hatred, you have to question yourself why you have that hatred and what could I do to move past that hatred. If you feel like you always have anxiety, you have to look at yourself. Why do I have the anxiety, and what can I do to move past it? Because the thing about it is we can't make change if we don't move past those obstacles, because there are going to be obstacles in our lives. I look at Christianity as an obstacle. You know what I'm saying? We fed milk and then we fed meat right after. So it's like, we don't change overnight. We're a new creature overnight. No, we're still in that flesh. We just have to learn the habits, and we have to keep going, and we have to, we might miss a prayer or two. Yeah, we might not read the Bible here and there. Oh, I forgot a verse today. But what your mind should be like, okay, if I miss a verse today, I'll keep going tomorrow. I'll try not to miss it. And try to make those habits. And that's obstacles. That's leaping over, trying to get over things, because is not a pavement of gold and nothing is in the way.
Right.
Everything.
In this sense, you're saying that obstacles are a good thing. Right?
Yeah.
You're saying these are things that, and the Bible speaks that way. The Bible talks about the fact that we rejoice when you have tons of trials and difficulties and problems, right? Because this is God's way of growing you, strengthening you, all of those things. He's developing your character, right? So it hurts at the time, but it's in God's purpose and plan.
Yeah. Paul himself, he welcomed his thorn in his side. So like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yep.
I would welcome it too if it's gonna keep reminding me, because we're human. The thing about it, everybody's forgetting, everybody's not getting the grasp of. First of all, we're human. Second of all, we have desires, and most of the time they're selfish desires. And the thing is, you know, we're gonna have those in our way all the time. That's our thorn. So we need a reminder. We need a reminder. That's why bad stuff keep happening. We need a reminder. That's why, things don't change, because that is just a reminder of saying, yo, something is up, and why is it up? Because I'll tell you not. I'll crap you not, guys. If everything was good, right? If everything was good and everything was happy and joy and there was no evil in the world, what do we need God for? Ask yourself that question.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And that type of understanding, that recognition that, especially when you look in your own heart and you say, man, if God wasn't, I'm losing my words. If not if God wasn't, but if I wasn't struggling with different things, if I wasn't having difficulties, I wouldn't turn to God, right? I wouldn't, and that's just the human heart. That's the human tendency. So I think you make a really, really good point with that. Yeah. I want to go now to two things, and Zaladin, bringing us back to biblical themes, right? Biblical topics. Zaladin. Here we go. And this is, again, in relation to what's the next step? What should we do, right? This is what Zaladin says. The heart of man is wicked. There will be no real change unless the heart changes. We do live in a fallen world where black people are seen as less than human in our society. This will continue until the very end and the Lord's arrival. We just have to stay wise, be vigilant, and educate the ignorant. What do you think of that?
I think it's nothing but truth. Like this is something that's going to continue on. We want equality as much as we want it, but the thing is, it's just something that it seems like it's not going to go away. So we have to educate our people. We have to continue on letting them know, look, it's not a happy-go-lucky. It's not when you get grown things change for the better. No. Because kids have always in this mind, I can't wait till I get out of your house because I ain't going to have to deal with all these rules. But you forget, and once you leave my house, these little baby rules are going to turn into 100 rules once you get out of there. And it's like, it's not going to die, because if that's the case, racism would have died in the Bible when Moses let his people go. And it didn't. Like last time I checked, Jesus still died, didn't he? So like, I know it sounds horrible, but every killing we see is a sacrifice and is a remindance that we're not in the right. We're not in the right at all. As much as we want to be in the right, we're not. And we have to see it every single time. And it sucks that a person's life has to be gone for that. And all we could do is pray that that person is living in the right. But other than that, like, we have to make sure that our kids know what's going on. We have to make sure that when they hit, 10, 11, when they start asking questions, we give them the right questions. We raise them up in the right ways. Because when they leave your house to go to public school, they're learning other crap that they shouldn't be learning. And the thing is, you got to readjust all that stuff as you go. You got to start, like, every time they come in, you got to polish off that dirt, polish it off, because dumb kids are not, they're growing up with kids. Let's just be honest. Right now, my sister, she's pregnant. She's 16. So, like, kids are learning from kids, and they're learning the worst thing ever. And you have to do your due diligence as a parent, especially a person of color, to teach them how to speak, how to how to conduct themselves, how to do everything. And granted, it might not always, it's not always like, oh, they will be alive, like you'll keep them alive, but I'm giving it in God's hands after I do this, you know, because that's the thing. They're gifts. God, children are gifts to us. They are not ours. They're not our property. They're none of that. You know, we had to train them up and let them go. Let them do what they have to do. And it's just, did I do the right thing as a parent to do everything that I had to do to make sure that my child never was in a situation, you know?
Yeah, parenting is so important. It's absolutely essential. It's one of the primary reasons God, is moving and working in our lives. All of those things. I mean, the first command He gave to mankind was right: be fruitful and multiply. And everything that was associated with that is absolutely so important. I think we need to recognize, piggybacking off of what Zaladin said, we're not going to solve this problem in our generation, right? And I think that's tying into what you're saying, Bess, is if we're investing in our children properly, if we're teaching them appropriately, all of these things, this is a problem that we can affect change down the line, right? We are making progress right now. As we sit here right now, we're making progress towards solving this issue 100 years from now, type of thing, right? After generation after generation after generation, as we shape and mold our children. That's not to say we shouldn't keep fighting for equality right now. That's still very important, right?
Yeah.
But we need to also, I think we're so short-sighted sometimes in our lives. We just look at what's in front of our face, right? And we don't have that long-term outlook, that long-term perspective that I think can be so helpful and so important.
Right. That's how I honestly believe why the Bible was written, because all these stories, all these things, all these struggles, all these oppressions that have happened, it's just an outlook of, nothing is going to change, but what are you going to do within yourself to, I wouldn't say smooth the road, but what are you going to do within yourself to look at it different in a perspective wise, like,
Right.
how you going to handle it when it does show up, again, God could have had Jesus, while He was out here, He could have had all the anxieties and everything, but He still did what He had to do to educate and teach His people, the children and everything. And that's the same logic we have to do, because if we are new creatures and we are like Christ, shouldn't we be practicing and having the same behaviors that He has, with how He handled things? Granted, not all of it is going to be the same way, because we're more modern, but the word stays the same. The goal is still the same. It didn't change. The only thing that changed was the way we handle things. That's it. So, I think that's like the hugest thing, make sure that...
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. I'm just saying, just make sure that you guys just know that and teach that and make sure that you believe it also. Because if you don't believe it, they're not going to believe it.
Yeah, true. And we need to simultaneously, I think in the meantime, we need to hold two things in mind at the same time. And that this, again, goes along with what Zaladin was saying, is on the one hand, we need to fight for justice. We need to fight for those things right now. We need to be fired up and motivated about change and trying to make a difference here and now as the church, not just sitting back on our laurels in our churches and doing whatever, right? So that is true. But by the same token, we also need to recognize as individuals that this side of heaven, it's not going to be perfect. We all have our own cross to bear. It's going to be difficult, right? And kind of like Zaladin said, like this side of heaven, this problem might not be solved, even though we work as hard as we can to solve it. You know what I mean? And if we can hold those two things in mind at once, I think it would quell a lot of the fears and the anxieties that come with this, recognizing I can work towards progress, but at the same time recognize that this might be my cross to bear. And Jesus bore my sins on Himself on the cross. I've got to live out in the situation in which I'm found, right? Whatever those difficulties and trials come to me, right?
They always like have that, like, revert back to that person that actually helped him, because he had fell a couple of times while trying to drag the cross to his death,
right.
And somebody came and they helped him. And that's the thing about fellowship. I should be able to help you pick up your cross if you fall and weary. Plain and simple.
Right.
Why does it have to be only that one person? I think this is it always, it's the thing with marriage too, like how they make marriage seem like, oh, you're bound and this and that. No, you're not understanding how great a marriage can be, especially if you have communication and you guys are on like the same standing. Like, it's, you know how many hardships I've been through and Justin had to like deal with it, you know. Like, it's just like,
Right.
and he helped me deal with it by help like dealing with it. Like,
Yeah.
it was the same thing as with the cross, that he's, you know, Jesus over here stumbling and somebody was like, you know what, I'm gonna help him real quick, you know. And that's what you need somebody to help you real quick, regardless if you're in a marriage, regardless if you know, in a church, regardless of anything. As a human being, as a human instinct, if you see somebody falling, it should be automatic. Yo, let me help this person.
Yeah. And with that, I want us to kind of close, I guess, here with a Bible verse, I think, related to what you just said and related to the topic at hand. Um, Colossians 3:11, Paul says this. He says, "Here there is neither Jew nor Gentile, circumcised nor uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is all and is in all." And I think that's the essence of what we need to keep coming back to when it comes to this topic.
Right.
Christ is all, he's in all. We are, you know, in terms of Christ, we are all one. We're united, right? And we need to understand and recognize that in our brothers and sisters, regardless if they look differently than us. Because specifically in this passage, Paul says there's a bunch of people here in my list that look different from each other, but Christ is all and he's in all, right?
Right. And a lot
Focusing
of people
on him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, no.
A lot of people take that verse and they actually think that that has to do with sinners, like sinners versus holy, and that's not it. That's not what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? He's saying all the spectrums of that: the skin,
Right.
the race, the way that you was culturally raised, the way that you believe in God. Everything is different. He doesn't see that. He just sees your goal and you making that progress to your goal and the faith that you have. So,
Right.
you know, I think that's like a great verse to like implement in your life all the time, regardless of any skin color, because it refers to everything, not just, oh, that person is a sinner, so like, you know.
Right. And the fact of the matter is that if this is Christ's focus, right? If his focus is, again, like you said, not on skin color, not on anything like that, right? If his focus is on bringing his people together and uniting them in terms of the body, right? I am convinced that we will make progress in this issue insofar as we focus on Christ. If we focus on Christ and we focus on him in this process, then we can begin to make progress. That's not trying to say that all the tactics and strategy are just going to be worked out, right? We need to think about those things, but we also need to focus on Christ. So again, Colossians 3:11, I think that's essential. With that, Vess, I think we should start to close out. So if you wouldn't mind, just let everybody know where they can find you, where they can get a hold of you, all that good stuff, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right, so you guys can find me here on Twitch, Vesenia Designs, all together. I'm always on Monday through Fridays, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and I'll be in PastorTanner's. We're there like that. You guys see me typing away, messing with Zeland, and call him Old Man Salad.
That's awesome. Well,
Yes.
well, thank you, Vesenia. For those who don't know me, I'm Pastor Tanner, and part of the reason I wanted to do these conversations is I do think the answers lie within the body of Christ, right? I think the body of Christ coming together, we can begin to resolve some of these issues, right? This is a pressing issue in our time right now, and I think as the body of Christ coming together, we can find answers to these questions. Pastor Tanner on Twitch, all one word, Pastor Tanner on YouTube, that's where you can find me. And yeah, I so appreciate you coming on the show, Vesenia, talking with me. Here's the deal. We are not going to pretend that we resolved this issue. There's so much we didn't talk about, right? There's so much still left to talk about. But I think, and this might be the most important step in the discussion, is we've started the conversation. We've got the ball rolling. We've opened up those lines of communication. We talked how important communication is, right? So we've done that. And now we can begin to continue to discuss, to talk, to communicate, and I believe we will find solutions to these difficult questions, these hard times. So, is there anything else you would like to wrap up with, Yesenia?
Yeah, I totally agree. Piggyback off of what you said, I think that this is a topic that always needs to be discussed because this can't die down like it did with Eric Gardner. This has to keep going. This has to be something that's always talked about. This is something that we have to try to resolve. Um, I'm telling y'all, Moses had to fight hard. Moses, Abraham, all of them had to fight hard to get their people from oppression. And my thing about it is, if we are truly seen in God's eyes as a whole, as a unit, I think we need to break down those barriers of, you know, white people versus black people. No, it needs to be all of us coming together and doing what we have to do to meet our goal and live some type of peace. Like, not all types of peace, because you're not going to always get peace, but some type of peace where we're not coming at each other. Because if we believe in the same God, we need to believe that we all the same, regardless of the fact.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vesenia, and I want to commend you for coming on the show. I think you set such a good example for people to, you know, engage in conversations that can be difficult. Again, we talked about anxiety, we talked about, you know, those struggles, and we were able to engage in this, I think, in a way that this was helpful to me. It opened up my eyes to new ways of looking at these things, and it gave me some action items that I need to move forward on, right? And so I just want to commend you for doing that, and I think setting such a great example for your community. Thank you so much.
No problem. You're welcome. You're going to be a good pastor. Watch. They're going to be like, oh, my God. He's leading all nations.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Well, thanks again. And to everyone out there, this is going to end the interview. Thank you so much for your questions and comments and chat. And I would challenge you to, if you found something difficult was spoken today, either from my lips or from Vesenia's lips, right? If you found that there was something that was challenging to you, I would encourage you to lean into that, not run away from it. Lean into that and ask yourself why. Why is that challenging? Why did that feel a little abrasive? Why did that hurt? Because I believe this is how we all grow and how we will all mature in Christ. So, yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Thanks again, Vesenia.
You're
Take
welcome.
care, and hopefully we can do another one soon.
Yes, no problem. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Yeah, my pleasure. Take care, guys. God bless. Bye now.
Bye.